Hi, back again. I'm going to bring you a little bit of a different scenario this week. This week I'm in the global headquarters for News of the Future. Call it Future News. Now, this, just so I don't scare anybody, this type of newscast will happen in the future. This is a prophecy type message based on both the Bible right here and on current events in the news. And we're going to square both of those away, and then I'm going to surprise you, but you've got to wait till the end. So here we go. Make it official, like a newscaster. Today is Monday, sometime in the future. Israel has performed a preemptive nuclear strike on the nuclear nation of Iran. And they've devastated Iran and its nuclear facilities and underground bunkers. Now, as a result of that, I must report to you that the Arab world has vowed to triple the price of oil, so that is going to affect your pocketbooks in the very near future. Tripling the price of oil has caused massive fuel price spikes, so that fuel oil and gasoline in the United States and around the globe here, unfortunately, have caused other ripple effects. The extreme prices of fuel and the increases brought about by the Arabs, brought about by their expulsion out of Israel and out of Jerusalem and off Mount Zion in Jerusalem, have caused massive hoarding of food. Hello again. Today is Tuesday, and due to the extreme spike in oil and fuel prices and the hoarding of food, there are now shortages of both commodities. The world has clamored for a solution to the problem, and as a result of that, the United Nations has decided to form a single global government and one single World Bank. They will ration the food and fuel to every country and every citizen in every country on the planet. This they find, so they tell Global News tonight, that this is necessary to evenly distribute the food and the fuel that must be rationed to the world. Welcome back to Global News Network. Today is Wednesday, and the United Nations has formed a new world or global government consisting of one world leader and a 10-nation member cabinet. Now, the new World Bank has been selected by the 10-nation cabinet to keep the only currency that will be recognized or declared valid right now as gold. All paper currencies throughout the world are now worthless. The new global leaders have declared that each person on the earth is to report to their local authority under the leadership of the new global government, and they are to have a microchip implanted under the skin of the back of their right hand, that means you, or under the skin in your forehead. Now, the reason for that they have decided to do this is it is a necessity to prevent wide-scale fraud from people desiring to obtain and hoard fuel and food. Now, there is a pledge to be signed by every individual according to the new global government, as reported to your faithful reporter here, that their allegiance, the people's allegiance to the new world leader and his global government must be signed, sealed, and delivered, or you will not receive the microchip in the back of your hand or your forehead. Now, without that being implanted, you will not be able to buy or sell anything, especially food and fuel. So it is the news tonight that you must step up, sign that document, pledge your allegiance to the new world government, and then receive that microchip. Hello, and today is Thursday. Hello from Global News. And the global government, you will be interested to know this, they have abolished all constitutions throughout the world. All proclamations are now null and void. The new Constitution requires that all guns be surrendered to the new international civilian police force that are found in your local city or your town. Failure to surrender guns will be an automatic prison sentence of not less than 10 years. I must also report that the New World Leader has dictated that a world court system has been established whereby Sharia law is to be imposed. Now they did this, so I'm told, because the Arab world, Islamic world, has control of the oil. So the world leader believes that over time he can bring down fuel prices to reasonable levels, and that should bring down the cost of food. So that's why they struck a deal, and the progressives of the one world government and the Islamic nations and their clerics this is the deal. The clerics will run the court systems in the world. One court, one set of rules and regulations administered by one group, and that is Sharia law and the clerics. Now, as a result of this, the world leader tells Global News that it should bring down the food prices. Now, we all realize that there's such severe shortages of fuel and food that this, to your new global leaders, have made total and utter sense. Today is Friday, and your faithful correspondent from Global News Network, John Tyler here, has received this document. It says the local agencies in each town and city throughout the world have been asked by the people, that would be you, now under their leadership to provide bread and fuel to them because the currency is no longer valid as of the decree by the new world leader. They have been instructed to report to their local authority under the leadership of the new global government to pick up their rations, your rations of food and fuel at the designated outlets only. If you do not have, according to this document that I have in front of me, if you do not have the implanted microchip, then you will not be allowed to have any food or any fuel. In fact, it goes on to say that anyone who has refused allegiance to the world leader will be imprisoned or condemned to death by beheading. The reason for that is, according to this statement from World Headquarters, is the world leader states that the reason for a death sentence or severe time in prison without the implanted microchip is that he considers those who have not pledged their allegiance to the new global government and to him, the world leader, are potential traitors who can become terrorists and cause some problems. To that end, without a microchip, if you refuse to have that implanted in the back of your right hand or your forehead, this document says the new world leader and the court systems have decided that you will be condemned to death by beheading, and we know that is the Islamic tradition for capital punishment, or you will be in prison for who knows how long. So we suggest here at Global News that you take this news report for its face value and get over to your local agencies within your cities and towns and have that microchip implanted if you decide you want to pledge your allegiance to the new world leader. Welcome back to News Headquarters for the world, and we are the only global news network available as of the time that the new global government has been established. Today, the new world leader has declared that each individual who wants food or fuel must sign over or pledge all of their personal property to the world leader and the global government. Failure to do so will void out the implanted microchip, and therefore you will not be able to buy or sell food or fuel, nor will you be given any health care. Each person must contact the local authority via their new internet phones issued by the global government. You can just hop on that phone and call in. And when you do call in, it says in my report here that a member of the local government will then contact each person who calls in on the new global cell phone and will get their signatures on the documents that declare that all personal property is owned by the global government. And they will do this in exchange or payment for food or fuel, which is still rationed, as you already know, if you've stayed in any kind of food or fuel lines, or even healthcare lines at the hospital. Welcome back to Global News Network. Today is Tuesday, and I'm wearing this heavier coat because we're even rationed on our fuel here in the studio, so it's a bit chilly in here. But I'm here to report to you that everything of a personal nature, including automobiles, yard equipment, tools, furniture, and all appliances owned by you, have been already signed over to the new global government as of today. And few, if any, have refused because they are hungry and they need their fuel and they need health care. So everyone has apparently signed up. Congratulations to you. We will see that things will get a little better as we go forward, hopefully. Hi, instead of nightly news, this is a year, it's been one whole year now since I've talked about the global government and the leadership, because things have been going relatively well now that they have their government going here in the green zone in Baghdad, Iraq, the headquarters of the new United Nations building. So although a year has gone by, I must bring you an update. Things have been going, as I say, relatively well, but I must pass this news along to you. It says that the new global government has said that with very few incidents, things have been going as well as can be expected. The court systems have demanded that all allegiance now be given to the world leader who has become the supreme religious leader of the world. Failure to adhere to that new directive that dictates worship now belongs to the global leader will result in a court decree that those who fail to worship the new world leader will be beheaded. This may sound stringent, but as the new world leader has said, he is owed this worship because he is the sole provider of all commodities that he owns, all personal property of everyone in the world, with the exception of their land, he owns. He has also declared that there are shortages of food again, and it is widespread. Although fuel availability has increased, the costs associated with delivering it still remain high. And the hoarding of food, primarily by the wealthy who still have gold and can buy food and fuel, while the poor starve or are driven to desperate measures seeking food and fuel. The rich, because they have gold, can still buy the food, and they're hoarding as much food as they possibly can for themselves and their family. Therefore, the world leader has sent out one more decree stating that all of the gold possessed by anyone on the face of this planet, whether you're rich or you're not, must be turned over to the local authority. As it was in 1933, for those of you from the United States who might remember some history, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared in 1933 that all gold would be turned into the government or face a fine of $10,000 and or up to 10 years in prison. That still holds true, but the failure this time to turn all gold in so that there will be a fair and equitable redistribution of food and fuel to all, not just the wealthy, or the wealthy few, we should say, will be punished by automatic imprisonment or death. And death, as you know, through Sharia law is by beheading. Welcome back. Today is Tuesday, and your faithful global world reporter here has a document in front of him And now let me read that to you if I might. It says here, the people, this is the news of today, the people in the streets are crying out to the world leader, and I'm quoting, "We cannot lie to you. Our money is worthless. Our gold is now yours, O great worshipful leader, and all of our personal belongings are yours. There is nothing left but our bodies and our lands. So, therefore, we shall die right before your eyes, world leader, unless you consider owning us and our lands." That's all we have left that we might be able to offer you. "We will gladly relinquish those in exchange for more food and fuel. We must eat, or we will surely perish." Good evening. Tonight is Wednesday, and the world leader has declared that he is authorizing that in exchange for pledging their bodies and their lands to him, he will allow the people of the world to work for the government, and he will authorize them to farm the lands that he will own after they sign it over to him at their request. They want to eat, they need food, they need fuel, they need health care, and so in exchange for providing that for them, because there is no money in the world, only the microchip can allow you to buy and sell, and that is backed by the gold held in the World Bank. Then the world leader told the global news outlet here that this will be beneficial to all on the planet because the people will work for food and fuel, and they will be given seed by their local administrators. Once they grow food, it will mean that rationing by the world government and food and health care can be provided and much more readily available. It makes sense to the world leader that if you provide the seed and now the people are willing to work and plant the seed, then we would have more food available to all. So my report goes on to say that the people of the earth applauded their new world leader, who also reminded them that back in the years 2012 and 2013, half the population demanded that their government take care of them from cradle to grave. So the world leader has now said that we have honored this commitment by the government and the request by half the population. We are now honoring that to 100% of the population. We are now taking care of you, says the world leader, from cradle to grave. You finally have been granted your wish, so says the world leader. Welcome back to Global News Network. John Tyler, your faithful reporter. Today is Thursday. The world leader has announced today that he has relocated the people of the planet to various cities and towns where they can now plant the seeds that the government has extended to them for food and harvested in great quantities. He owns the cattle now and all other meat sources and all the fishing rights. So, the world leader has the power to require that each inhabitant be productive and live useful, productive life as an individual to help provide and service their fellow man. Now, for all those who cannot be productive, in some fashion, it seems that they have disappeared from sight. It is not known by Global News Network what their fate is. Hi, and welcome to Global News Network. Today is Friday. We have a coat on again because we're still being rationed our fuel, and fortunately the food in the world seems to be in better shape. Now, it was discovered by this reporter that the global government has made a pact with the Islamic clerics, now in charge of the global court systems under Sharia law, and they were exempt from the land takings and personal property takings in lieu of the services and their assignments and their duties as high court magistrates. So none of their property was taken, although I am told that it is reported that they still must have the microchip in the back of their hand or their forehead, again, to prevent fraud, and so that the government knows who is getting the food and the fuel. So the implants to buy or sell anything, or any food, fuel, commodities, anything, or to trade, these Islamic clerics who are running the court systems of the world now still own them, but they cannot own gold, so it is reported. Only the World Bank can own gold as of this year. Hi, Global News Network here again with John Tyler. Today is Saturday. It is a Sabbath day, and normally I am not allowed to work on the weekends. However, our world leader has instructed me to come and give you this last report. We are informed here at Global News Network headquarters here in Baghdad in the Green Zone, where the United Nations new headquarters are, because it's a 104-acre site, well protected, and there are hotels here and there are all kinds of things, all separate utilities, separate water supply, and it's shielded by a huge wall outside. Sometime we'll show you the pictures of that. But the world leader says that as a result of his activities and his wisdom and knowledge, and the results are that the people who have turned everything over to him and have decided to plant the seeds that the government has given them, the food supply is in adequate supply right now, and the government says that they are able to provide food, fuel, and health care to the populace. He has declared, the world leader, that people shall send 20% or 1/5 of the food to the International Food Bank here in Baghdad, and that they can keep the other 80% for the following reasons. It is to be used for seed to plant their own food now. The government will no longer send seed to you. You will take it from the seed and from the harvest that you have and from the livestock that the government has given you. Use that, multiply it, and then send 20% or 1/5 off to government headquarters here in Baghdad, Iraq. And it is to be used to continue productivity of the food and livestock for the world, who are dependent upon their new government for everything. Part of the 80% will be used to feed you and your children, according to the world leader. The people of the earth have said, and I have this report in front of me, have said in a unified voice to the world leader of this new global government, "Thank you, O great world leader, provider to all of us. You have saved our lives. Let us find favor in your sight, and we shall forevermore worship you alone and be your servants." Now, that scenario is over. Do you think that this could possibly happen to you in the future, exactly the way I've laid this out? Well, it's going to, based on this Bible and based on current events in the news. But let me also say that that scenario is, not only is it entirely possible, but right here in Genesis, the book of Genesis, first book in the Bible. We should have seen this coming, folks, because let me just spin over there. Genesis 47. In the event that you would like to follow along with me, I'm going to read it to you, because it's time to think about things, I think. So I'm going to refer you to an identical, nearly identical story that already happened back in Genesis when the Pharaoh controlled all the governments of the earth from Egypt. Genesis 47 and verse 13. I'm going to read this to you because I want you to give you God's word of what happened. And you see if there are any similarities between what has happened and what is going to happen in the future, the near future, because history always repeats itself. And God didn't put this lesson in the Bible just for kicks or just as a history lesson. Verse 13. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of the world fainted by reason of the famine. And Joseph, that would be the second in command in Egypt, gathered up all the money that was found in the land, and in the land the world, and for the corn which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. In other words, a world bank. And they used the funds to buy food that can be grown, seed. And when money failed in the land of Egypt, in our case we'll call it in the world, when money failed means it became worthless, and in the land of Canaan, all the world, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph, which means the global government, and said, "Give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For our money has failed. We have no money." And Joseph said, "Give me your cattle, give me your personal possessions, including your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle food, because your money has failed." And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for their personal property, horses, and for their flocks, and for the cattle of their herds, and for the donkeys, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. A year went by, things were okay. Time went on, and he says, when that year, in verse 18, when that year was ended, that's why your faithful reporter came back a year later, when that year was ended, they came unto him the second time, and they said unto him, "We will not hide it from you, my lord. How that our money is spent, my lord hath also owns our herds of cattle, all of our personal possession. There is nothing left in the sight of my lord, except our bodies and our lands. Wherefore shall we die before your eyes, O great leader? But our bodies and our lands are all that we have. We don't want to die before you, so buy us and buy our land for bread. We will exchange it for bread. And we and our land will be servants unto you, O great leader." In this case it says Pharaoh. "And give us seed, that we may live and not die, that the land does not become desolate." And Joseph bought all of the land of all the people for his leader, and sold every man his field. They sold it to, or gave it to, signed it over to the world leader, because the famine prevailed over them. They were hungry. So the land all became the world leader's land. And as for the people, he removed them to cities. In other words, he placed them in cities and towns, from one end of the borders of the world to the other. Only the land of the priests he bought not, for the priests had a portion assigned them of the world leader, and did eat their portion which the world leader gave them. Wherefore they didn't have to sell their land. They made a deal with the government. Then Joseph said unto the people, "Behold, I have bought you this day. I own you and your land for the world leader. So here is seed for you, and you shall now go and plant or sow the seed in the land that we now own. And it shall come to pass in the increase, when you harvest that, in other words, that you shall give a fifth part to the world leader," in this case Pharaoh, "and 4 parts shall be your own, for seed of the field, and," in other words, "for you to plant again, and for your food, and for those in your household, and food for your little ones." Wasn't the world leader nice to them at that point? He gave them food back for their own land and all their possessions and all their gold, and their money became worthless. And they said, verse 25, "You, O great leader, have saved our lives. Let us find grace in your sight, and we will be forever your servants." And Joseph made it a law over all the land unto this day, that Pharaoh, or the leader, world leader, shall have the 5th part, except that of the priests who were running the show with the world leader, in our case the clerics, which became not the world leaders' possessions. There, my friend, you have a scenario that you thought I was just kidding with you. And I don't do that. I hate bringing bad news to you. Sometimes, I like to most of the time, I like to encourage you. But this is a fact of news and Bible prophecy that is going to unfold. Now, as you noted, I started out by saying it all begins when Israel does a preemptive strike on the nation of Iran, and the devastation becomes so great and so horrible, and it will be covered by some global news network. If not, all the nations of the world will have their own news until what unfolds, like I have already suggested to you through various news reports. The world government will be formed, and they will take your stuff and so forth and so on. Then they will ration stuff out. It's all planned, unfortunately. It's in the book. And all that the progressives of the world today are doing, that is called far left-wing liberal folks and Islamic clerics, are going to make a deal. Progressives don't want to mess around with you or your religion, but they don't mind if the clerics do, because the clerics believe one thing: you will worship God the way they worship God, or off with your egg, mate. So it's time to think about things. It's time to think about the actual story that happened and the story of history repeating itself in your very near future. As soon as you see Israel drop the bombs on Iran, and you will then see Israel throw all the Arabs out of the land of Israel and Jerusalem, and in particular off Mount Zion, then you will read or see in the news globally that Israel is going to begin to build their holy temple. Folks, when you see that happen, this Bible says, look up, for your redemption draws near. What that means, Jesus in particular said, you will see the Son of Man, that's him, coming back in the clouds to take his saints out of here. And then, as I pointed out in so many messages, all hell will break loose on the earth. You do not want to be here when that happens. I would suggest that you click on the link below here on YouTube. It's called the Salvation Link. Go over there. It will tell you what you have to do to avoid all of this calamity that's coming your way. I'll see you next week, and I'm going to bring you a good message, so don't get discouraged. But I felt hit over the head to bring this message because I read Genesis 47, and I said, whoa, that's exactly what's going to happen according to the Bible and according to news events of today. I'll see you next week. Cheer up. Click the link, though, and I'll see you next week.